Joining us now with stories trending around the world is Vimbai Mutihiri Ekpeyon. Vimbai, you've been here all along, so just take it from there.
Yes, just a little bit of multitasking this morning, but we're up to the task. Let's kick off with some reactions to our lead story that we took yesterday. Of course, that was all about the report from the New York Times. Now, the International Society for Civil Liberties and Rule of Law, that's Intersociety, has accused the New York Times of falsifying parts of its report that told how the United States relied on its often, and I quote, unverified information to assert claims of a Christian genocide in Nigeria. In the report published on Sunday, the New York Times said Emeka Umeagbalasi, Intersociety founder, admitted that he often does not verify his data, amongst other allegations discrediting his research. Well, in a statement on Monday, Intersociety accused the American newspaper of spinning a perfidy of lies in its report. The statement, co-signed by Umeagbalasi and other Intersociety officials, said that it was shocked and totally disappointed at the lies injuriously credited to the organization, saying they were never part of the interview that lasted for not less than 3 hours. They said, and I quote, New York Times lied when it falsely claimed that our board chair admitted that he often does not verify his data, the statement reads. The organization listed its data collection processes, allegedly mentioned during the interview, to include primary or directly generated and secondary or indirectly or third-party generated. The statement concluded by saying Umeagbalasi is proudly a successful, lawful, and legitimate screwdriver salesman. And just to add to that, we've also seen some solidarity reports, solidarity statements from other organizations, specifically Equipping the Persecuted USA. And Equipping the Persecuted USA are saying, in essence, and I quote, the story told in that New York Times article is not just wrong, it is an injury added to an open wound. It tries to turn survivors into suspects, truth tellers into propagandists, and a decade of blood into a clever narrative to be managed by consultants in Washington and Abuja. It will not stand. So, just a expected reply from that New York Times article that we discussed at great length yesterday, and the number of issues that we had already pointed out. But good to see that Mr. Umeagbalasi has now made his response. Dr. Abati.
Okay. Well, I mean, there is the right of reply. There is the right of feedback. And then that story, of course, published in the Washington Post, I think January 18, was quite sensational because the story went to conclude that President Trump acted on the basis of the intelligence provided by New York Times, by information provided by a trader in school drivers and wrenches in the Onitsha market. And we said that could be potentially provocative, given the delicate balance of religious and ethnic sentiments in Nigeria. And now the gentleman that was mentioned in that story has now said many of the things that were reported were not the things that he told the reporter, who was named as the West African Bureau Chief of the New York Times, Ruth McLean. And she was accompanied by two other persons, a Kwara State Christian photographer and a reporter for This Day newspaper, Dave Eleke, who is well known, reportedly, to the particular gentleman that is on the screen. So they have now said, well, the Inter-Society chieftain did not say that Muslims were being, Christians were being massacred. That what he said was that both Muslims and Christians are victims of persecution, and also that, generally, the reporter, Ruth McLean, put words into his mouth and also lied about the data that was provided. The main argument is that, look, they're not a media outfit, they're just a civil society group collecting data about religious persecution in Nigeria. Well, the devil is in the details. I think yesterday, the point was raised about not blaming the journalists, and I said, no, I didn't want to go after New York Times so that, it doesn't look like dog is trying to eat dog. But I made a point that I hope that this is not another Janet Cook story. In 1981, Janet Cook, a journalist, BA journalism, reporting for the Washington Post, wrote a story about an 8-year-old Jimmy said to be heroin addict. Now that story was submitted for the Pulitzer Prize for feature writing, and Janet Cook went on to win the prize. But it was then discovered that story was fabricated, and then of course that prize had to be taken from her. Now journalists are not in the business of fabrication. They are not screwdriver traders, tying things up, screwing things down and up. No, they are in the business of reporting factual information, accuracy, balance, fairness, ethical reporting. So journalistic ethics will seem to be at issue here. And it's not enough for the Intersociety members, about 3 of them signed their rebuttal. They should go ahead and protest officially to the New York Times and to say that your Ruth McLean was combining fiction with facts. And from the point of view of journalistic ethics, the onus is on the New York Times to take up the matter and probably to also offer, an explanation or an apology if, an ethical case, is established. So we now have 2 sides of the story, from the Intersociety leaders and also the report, evidential report from New York Times. I think as the public, we need to know what exactly the truth is. And this does not negate my submission yesterday that the Nigerian government should also investigate this matter, because journalists of all sorts, whether they are parachute or resident journalists, cannot just come to Nigeria and fabricate stories. The grey aspect of it, however, is the allegation by the speakers from Intersociety that perhaps this has something to do with the $4.5 million lobbying contract that Nigeria they engaged in, and now that story was being used to cook up stories for the Nigerian government. That in itself is a strong indictment, of New York Times. And New York Times has an obligation to defend its own integrity.
Absolutely.
Okay. The pronunciation is not correct. What is it again? Integrity.
Integrity.
Or integrity.
the kind of things we see on this desk.
So a couple of things. When a matter like this is back and forth, it behoves on New York Times, because I'm not sure that New York Times, with its capacity, will have done that 3-hour interview as they claim without recording it.
Yeah.
We'd like to see the recording at some point to be able to clarify the facts. But as regards also journalism and, spinning stories and all of that, the advice is always stay on the side of facts. Dr. Abati, as regards your story, let me now tell you a very funny story of Janet Cook. Isn't it shocking?
Very briefly, please. Very
briefly. Isn't it shocking that Janet Cook, that the Pulitzer Prize was withdrawn from for telling lies? The man, Gongon, that the prize was named after, Joseph Pulitzer, was known to be the father of yellow journalism.
He was not for fabricating.
No,
he was needling society.
It was needling society. He was fabricating, was telling lies. In fact, it was to clear his name, to repair his image. But I think the most important thing, and a point I want to make here, is trying to ascribe all that happened to this screwdriver salesman is wrong. Yes. And I'll give you a list quickly, Vinbai.
Very quickly.
Very quickly. You can eat out of my time in the other stories. Please.
No, we're not doing time sharing. Go ahead.
I want to give you, these charities I'm going to call are charities that have been working in the northern part of Nigeria for a while. And that's why I'm happy that you read Francis Ntor's message as regards, because it's also a weakness in Yelwata. Catholic Relief Services, Global Christian Relief, Christian Mission Aid, Call of Hope, Christian Solidarity International, Faith Alive, Voice of Matter International Christian Concern, SIM USA. These are charities that are really working with churches in the northern part of Nigeria. And they jolly well do get data as regards incidents like this. So it's a concert of effort, and that's why a survivor of Yelwata does also testify to the foreign committee in the House in America. Frank Onto issued that message, and also the Archbishop of Makurdi, like I said before, also issued that message. So we should be clear as regards that. I think this was just a very bad one.
Yes, and I think more than anything, this is a huge call to the Nigerian government to ensure that we get more serious about data collection and that we have our own, sovereign set of data.
But we have the MBS. Last time the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics released a data on kidnapping numbers in this country, you know how the security forces stepped in and they said that data was phony.
Which is why I say we have to be serious about verifiable and factual data. Well, let's move to another issue that went viral yesterday as a diesel tanker toppled over on the Tincan Liverpool Bridge in Apapa, Lagos, triggering a rush by residents and passers-by to collect the highly combustible fuel spilling from the vehicle. Now, witnesses said the tanker capsized during Monday's early morning rush hour, with traffic management officials absent from the scene when the incident was first reported. Videos showed people converging on the site with jerrycans and containers of various shapes and sizes to collect the spilled product. The Lagos State Traffic Management Authority announced on X that emergency responders had contained the situation and reopened the affected route. They said the road on Liverpool Bridge inward Apapa that was cordoned off has been reopened after the contents have been neutralized by men of Lagos State Fire Service. LASMA officials are also doing the needful, and traffic is expected to move better while we await the arrival of a tow truck that was yesterday. Now, of course, the bridge was also cordoned off, and the counterflow traffic was controlled. Vehicular movement remained slow. That's what the agency had to say. But this incident mirrors previous fuel scooping episodes across Nigeria that have resulted in deadly explosions. It's not the first time we're seeing these type of scenes. If you remember, in October 2024, there were more than 100 people that perished after a petrol tanker burst into flames along the Kano-Hadejia Expressway in Jigawa State. But let's take a look at some tweets. This tweet from Ogochukwu, who says, this video of people scooping fuel from an overturned tanker was taken this morning at Tincan Liverpool Bridge, Apapa, Lagos. Frankly, it is difficult to understand how people still rush to scoop fuel each time a tanker falls, despite the many lives that have been lost in similar incidents. For me, this is not bravery or smartness. It is a deadly risk. No amount of fuel is worth a human life. One spark is enough to turn that place into a mass grave. Our people need to value their lives more than momentary gain. Fuel can be replaced. Human life cannot. From the side of the government too, we need stronger public education, quicker emergency response, and better systems for conveying inflammables. Now, still on the aftermath of this story, traffic safety concerns have resurfaced at the Liverpool Bridge in Apapa, Lagos, following an incident involving a fully loaded 40-foot diesel tanker that skidded off part of the bridge. According to the organizing secretary of the Association of Truck Owners Kirikiri Development Initiative, DK Kene Collins, overspeeding was the primary cause of the accident. And he noted that accidents involving these loaded trucks are frequent on the Liverpool Bridge and expressed concern over the delays in implementing safety measures announced by Lagos State government, which of course includes several things, amongst them compressed natural gas trucks and improved driver safety programs. And of course, strengthening driver training. But Rufai, these images are images we see time and time again. Let's hear what they have to say.
We urge the government, the state government, the federal government, whoever that is responsible, that there is an urgent need to come and look at the structure of this place. And in the interim, there's supposed to be speed breakers on top of this bridge, and there are no signs. This is something that has been reoccurring. It's a persistent reoccurrence on this particular spot that we're talking about. Sometime last year, it killed people here. We have videos to back up that fact. This particular place, this particular curve. So we urge the state government, continuous training and retraining of drivers, the eyesight. There are so many policies that we've had from the Lagos state government. We expect them to urgently kick into starts the programs they have for drivers with training, even the safety awareness, whatever they have. both the eyesight training and all have you, so that this kind of things can be nipped in the bud. Because thank God that no life was lost here, but look at the value of the property being lost. We urge the government to facilitate and fast-track whatever program they have.
The emergency response was not very swift due to equipment. The deployment of equipment did not come on time as expected, because it's expected that at a situation like this, all the emergency equipment would have been deployed to site in the next 1 hour. But look at time, this is about 12:30, since maybe 7 o'clock in the morning. It does not really speak well of our emergency response plan. The motorboy sustained a minor injury, the driver sustained a minor injury, and thank goodness it wasn't a PMS truck, because the market down the bridge would have, more than 300 people would have gone.
Lagos State is working together with so many agencies on this corridor. From now on, I think we are going to enter into a collaboration with them to effectively monitor and take into record a situation like this we have recorded here and develop strategy, which will be communicated with all other stakeholders, so that we won't be having this kind of a thing in Lagos State again.
All right.
Okay. So see, when we say Nigeria happened, it means culture will eat strategy for breakfast. If you talk about analysis of that issue, there are many things. Number one, what's the state of the driver? Is there a forum at which you even get a breathalyzer test for a driver before he goes out? Secondly, the state of the roads. Have we been able to factor in the state of the road? Somebody was talking about no speed breaker and all of that. What's even the integrity of the bridge? What's the state of the car? The truck itself. What was the brake level like? You get? Who assesses all of these things? Who gives an all clear of all of this? Then the last point is the state of the people. So when an incident happened, you heard him say the emergency didn't come on time. Could they have cordoned that place off quickly, so that people, even downstairs, will not be able to go there and go and scoop fuel? Because we've seen it happen. One that can never leave my mind, I keep saying it by, is the one in JC. I think that's one of the biggest tanker disaster ever in this country, because of the magnitude of the death that happened in JC. So when you have all of this problem, then how do we mitigate? Number one, some people say, oh, maybe CNG trucks. I mean, any truck can carry. But the state of the truck in the first place, have we even investigated that? We'll never get to investigate that. How does accidents like this go through a post-mortem, where people evaluate what truly happened? Is there an inquest, there's an inquiry? It never happens in Nigeria. The guy will probably just go to church and say, we thank God for what has happened. At least once I'm alive, there is hope.
Yeah.
Then secondly, sensitization. See, no matter the sensitization, people will still go out there to scoop first. So what you have to do is to prevent it from happening. Okay. So take, for instance, if you deploy security officials on ground, cordon the place off properly, they're going to have a surge of people, but they will have to go back one way or the other. So did we manage it effectively? We are lucky, and we thank God that it didn't degenerate, because people still scoop fuel. But the next time we might not be this lucky.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, did you say that he referred to was on October 17, 1998, when Nigerians witnessed the spectacle of people going to scoop fuel. Somebody, made the mistake of maybe lighting a cigarette or something, and, scores of persons were incinerated. Since then, we have had similar issues, whether it's in Niger State, or it is in the same Delta State, or here in Ijegun in the same Lagos State, or in other parts of Nigeria, including Jigawa. So you ask the question, why are people doing this? It looks like there's a suicidal instinct among Nigerians. There's the problem of poverty. There's also the problem of desperation. Many of those people there on the screen, they don't own any vehicle, but they will take the petrol, they will probably go and sell it. Now, what of the response mechanism by the state? Where are the first responders? This incident would have gone on for hours, but there was no fire safety response. There was nobody in terms of security to disperse the people and remind them of the kind of danger they were exposing themselves to. And you ask the question, is it that poverty affects people's brains? Because it doesn't take much intelligence to know that if you go near inflammable material, anything could happen. All of these people scooping fuel from the bleeding tanker, they are potential corpses. Oh, that's the problem. And I made a point about the responders because as we speak now, I understand that there is fire incident in Lagos here at the popular computer village in Ikeja, close to the bridge. And you know, what you have in some of the images coming out, it's like an inferno. Why is it that nobody has gone there to assist the people and to put out the fire? Tomorrow morning, we will now hear from emergency service in Lagos, oh, we got there 20 minutes after, oh, our vehicle broke down along the way, oh, we thank God, no lives were lost. We shouldn't be in that kind of a situation. And that's why we have emergency response systems in the country. Those systems, those agencies, those mechanisms should function.
I wonder how we'll get people to stop thinking that when this happens, it's a manna from heaven that has blessed them. It is not. So we thank God anyway in that incident. No lives were lost. Now, here's a turn of fortune. From the revered office of the Attorney-General of the Federation to Kuje Prison and now to DSS custody. This is the story of Abubakar Malami, who has surrendered himself to the Department of State Services following days of tension surrounding his stalled bail and heavy security presence at the Kuje Correctional Center in Abuja. The former Attorney General of the Federation decision comes after his continued detention, despite meeting bail conditions, triggered widespread attention and concern. Of course, his confinement had turned into a major security issue, with movements around the correctional facility tightly controlled for several days. Now, let's take a look at some responses from Twitter, reactions. Dapsy tweeted and said, "Where are the others before Malami? They were dragged and we have now moved on from all the court drama. They are now forgotten and left to enjoy the huge percentage left of their loot. They drag these people for a show and the whole process gathers dust in an obscure court. The strategy is to loot massively, get a slap on the wrist and 20% back to the government in forfeitures. In a few months, the noise dies down. They reinvent themselves as godfathers, sponsor candidates or their children into juicy offices. We keep on going round in circles." Well, David Osadolo had a different view. He said, "This is so wrong. The fact that Malami did it when he was in power doesn't mean this government must repeat this terrible behavior." But Dr. Abati, as you said earlier, he's innocent until proven guilty. However, the grace extended to public figures in Nigeria and just around the world around issues surrounding corruption specifically has started to wane, as people see sort of what they feel are the excesses of public office. And so when these court cases come around, most people, especially public opinion, does rush to do its own, public trial. Your thoughts on the movements around?
Look, there is what is called a global integrity framework, which deals with all forms of corruption, whether it's high corruption, it's called grand corruption, or, the lower level corruption. But corruption is corruption. But the experience in Africa is that, senior officials of state, big men, big women tend to get away with it. But you are right. There is a trend in, enforcing integrity frameworks. That's why you have bodies like Transparency International. And in all these jurisdictions, the principle is that nobody is above the law. Whether you were king yesterday or you were prime minister the other day, that integrity framework holds you accountable. So the key words are transparency and accountability. Even for persons who enjoy immunity while in office, they can still be questioned when that immunity has faded. The second point is about the fact that nobody is above the rule of law. Whoever you are, everyone is under the umbrella of law. And the law, stipulates certain duties, certain obligations, certain expectations, so that society is not a chaotic place where people just do as they like. The third point is that no condition is permanent. You can be the big cock today, tomorrow you can just be a small fly, by the wall. And that is what we see in many of these, big cases that we have had in Nigeria. Here is Mr. Malami, SAN. He was Attorney-General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, the Chief Law Officer of the Federation, one of the only ministerial position that is recognized in the Constitution. Bodies like EFCC, DSS, ICPC, they were at a time under his portfolio. and now it's those same agencies going after him. However, I conclude by saying that whoever it is that finds himself within the crosshairs of the law enforcement process in Nigeria, such a person is innocent until proven guilty. Such a person is entitled to fair hearing. Such a person is entitled to have his day in court and to have counsel, legal counsel of his own choice, who can defend him. And the government of the day and the various agencies must refrain from victimization, persecution, or media trial. And the media has a role in this regard also, not to use their platforms to promote media trial and conviction before due process, an authorization of a court of competent jurisdiction.
Yes, those are the points. But, I know some people on social media were saying there was an Uber DSS, a DSS Uber waiting for him outside Kuje Correctional Facility to whisk him away to his next destination. Anyway, let's look at some issues in Bayelsa State. As the Commissioner of Iyama, Daniel Edobo, has condemned the assault on a tricycle rider, popularly known as Keke, and has ordered the arrest of the officers involved. This was contained in a press statement signed by the command's police public relations officers DSP Musa Mohammed. The statement in parts reads, and I quote, "The attention of the Bayelsa State Police Command has been drawn to a viral video making the rounds on social media platforms, allegedly showing police officers assaulting a Keke driver. The Commissioner of Police, Bayelsa State Command, CP Iyama Daniel Edebo, has condemned the act in strong terms, describing it as unacceptable and contrary to professional policing standards. He reiterates that the command does not tolerate any form of human rights violation, unprofessional conduct, or brutality." All right, well, you saw the video. The officers involved have been arrested and disciplinary proceedings have been instituted. They've commenced in accordance with provisions of the Police Act. But we see this recurring incidents over and over again.
Vimbai, I'll send you a video of a child. The girl is probably less than 5 or 10. That was doing a video and says, "When I grow up, I want to be a police officer because they used to beat Keke and collect money." I know they are good police officers, and I make a case for the good ones any day, anytime. But this is the bad example of the Nigerian police. And it ties all of them with a brush. If we investigate it, maybe it can't be more than money. It can't be more. You see what money will cost in this Nigerian poverty? It can't be more than money. People have gotten killed because police want to collect money from you. It can't be more than money. So we want the security forces to be able to investigate. As regards the Malami case, Dr. But you said they shouldn't do media trial. How will the media people show up if they don't do media trial? The essence of bringing the case in public glare is not to fight corruption. See, Vimba, I don't know if you understand how Nigeria works. Let me explain it to you.
You say, how will the media in Nigeria chop?
If there's no media trial, if there's no stories. So it is big man's story that they called for corruption that is in Kuje that sells. So let me tell you how it's done. A big man caught in corruption. A new government indicts him. They use him to catch trips for anti-corruption, like they are fighting corruption. But in the end, they know that they're not going to indict him because he will still go through the law process one way or the other. The law will still let him go. So when that happens, they say they are fighting corruption. Can you show me in this country how many very big men conviction? There are not many, except they have a proper vendetta against you. And so Nigeria, they now do this because they know that Nigeria lacks institutional memory. Before you know it, after some point, they'll let you go. Didn't him, Malami himself, was the one that declared a nollie prosecute on a particular politician that was a corruption case on because that one was running for Senate. When that one wanted to run for Senate president, when that one needed to do a deal with them, he did a deal with them. Yes. He stepped down and he moved for Vimbai. Let me please, producer, I just got beg. Let me just make this point. It's a very important point. So they will now wait after a period of time. They will see honor. Is it not in this country that those that return Abacha loots are given very high honors in this country today? So it's not the intention. It's just they will do media trial, cast trips, and at the point they will leave you.
All right.
And lawyers will eat.
Well, I like to say I'm not part of the media that's chopping in your analogy.
They are chopping. They sell the stories.
They sell the stories.
That's what I'm telling you.
Okay, if you put it that way. Well, let's see. EFCC and DSS. Let's see how both of those cases do pan out. Now, very quickly to another story where comedian Bovi took to his social media to post a video recounting the events that transpired 60 years ago during Nigeria's first military coup, as taken from the book Oil, Politics and Violence by Maxillian. However, this has sparked polarized debate as some feel that the account he shared was inaccurate.
The major casualties of this coup were from another part of the country. The major survivor of this coup was from the parts of the country where these coup plotters come from. That is Agoyi Ironsi, and he became president. On that day, something bad was born because the major leaders of the senior men in the army and the government politics, right, were from a part. So the young soldiers that were from one part of the country were like, wait, why we say our leaders die? Fine, there were other people who died in the coup, but why we say our leaders die? And the only survivor amongst the leaders in the army, the only survivor is from the same place as those who planned the coup. So like I said, something bad was born.
Right. Well, in a swift reaction to this, Reno Omokri penned a piece titled "What Bovi Got Wrong About the January 15, 1966 Coup." And this is what he wrote. He said, "Yesterday I watched a video by the comedian Chris Asimoye Uboma, aka Bovi, detailing the events of January 15, 1966. I commend him for his narrative. However, there was one detail which he inadvertently misstated and which ought to be corrected, lest it pass into history, as some Nigerians have a propensity to substitute myth for fact. Contrary to popular wisdom, Major Chukwuma Nzeogu was not the mastermind of the coup, which today bears his name. In reality, the so-called Nzeogu coup was masterminded by Major Emmanuel Ifeajuna. Many Nigerians do not know that Nzeogu wrote letters, which may be termed as an uncompleted manuscript, while in detention at Apapa prison, detailing some of the events of that infamous day. The letters were mostly to his best friend, who would later become a Nigerian military head of state. Out of respect for him, I shall not mention his name." Well, several issues coming out of this. Where do I begin? Let me begin with you, Rufai.
So,
yes, go ahead. Yeah.
Thank God at the start of that video, what did Bovi said? He said he was quoting from Marx Solon. Yes. That's a version of history. If you read Ademoyega, that's another version of history. Ifejuna was part of it. Yes, the role, played in it, Cardinal Nzegu, was also big. Because you cannot forget that it was Ferdinand Nzegu that led the troop in the north to go attack the Southerners. That role is also there. If you also read John St. Jore's account, which I say is one of the most balanced.
John St. Jore.
The Jore's account, which I think one of the most balanced accounts. What he also said is also a different account. If you read Philip Effiong's account, it's also different. I think Bile even wrote a book before he passed. It's another account. So there are different accounts. There's no one size fits all to this account, you know. But what we should also now talk when we are talking history and we're having these debates is also the role and the sensationalism media played in all of this breakdown. Most notably, Drum magazine. I'm not sure they still do Drum again. Drum magazine.
Yeah, who was the editor then? Nelson Ota. Nelson Ota.
The sensationalism. And that's why when we look at conversations about race relations and all of that, we should be very careful because things can easily snowball. Okay. So you can't say there's one account that fits all of the narrative. There are different accounts. If you ask 5 people about the story, they'll tell you 5 different accounts.
And before we go to Milestones, sorry, Dr. Bati, I also just want you to add how do we get to the truth? If there are so many accounts, and who will accept the truth?
Okay, the literature is out there on the Nigerian Civil War, one of the most transformative experiences that Nigeria has had, both fictional and factual, and accounts by the persons who were direct architects of the issue. But I think where the problem lies is the attempt to give an ethnic coloration to that, either the Civil War or the January 15, 1966 school. And that is where the problem lies. Now, some people say it's in Zogu school. Some people say it is Ifea Junior school. The controversy is neither here nor there. All the persons that have been mentioned, whether it is Madiebo or Nsogu or Anoforo or Ifea Junior, these were a team of young men, average age 30, 31 at the time. What they were attacking were failed systems in Nigeria, corruption in Nigeria, and they wanted a better country. It was not as if there was an ethnic plebiscite.
It was not an Igbo coup.
It was not as if it wasn't as if there was an ethnic plebiscite to organize that coup. In fact, Kaduna Izaogu, in particular, was Igbo, yes, but he was born and raised in Kaduna. He was more Hausa Fulani than others, and he thought what was happening in the country was not good enough. That's the first point. The second point, of course, is that if you read General Babangida's book, My Journey in Service, he devoted attention to this same issue about ethnic coloration, that the ethnic coloration is exaggerated, that this was not about ethnicity. This was a far more complex process by young men who wanted to change Nigeria. And I think that's the line, the trope that we should push 60 years after the fact. Instead of, all this Ifea Junior coup, in Zogu school, it's a level of emotional simplicity that shows ignorance and illiteracy, if I may add that.
Very beautifully said, and I hope we can continue to educate ourselves and the nation about history and the correct factual accounts. Now to milestones. We celebrate Chief Emeka Anyaoku, a Nigerian diplomat and elder statesman who turned 93 years old on Sunday. Born 18 January 1933 in Obosi, Anambra State, he was the third Commonwealth Secretary General. Anyaoku was educated at Merchants of Light School, Oba, and attended the University College, Ibadan, then a college of the University of London, from which he obtained an honours degree in classics as a college scholar. At 93, Chief Anyaoku stands as one of Nigeria's finest gifts to the world, a diplomat whose life has been one of service, principle, and the power of dialogue over discord. Anyaoku belongs to that rare generation of Nigerians who carry the country's moral weight into the councils of the world and did not drop it. We wish him a very happy birthday from here at Arise, and we wish him many, many more in good health. Now, also on milestones today, we celebrate the life of Italian fashion icon Valentino Garavani, who died yesterday at the age of 93. Born Valentino Clemente Ludovico Garavani in May 11, 1932 in Voghera, Lombardy, he developed an interest in fashion while still in primary school. Valentino Garavani, the Italian fashion designer, became synonymous with mastery of color, elegance, and haute couture. Known simply as Valentino, the deceased was more than a designer and was a cultural force who shaped how elegance looked, felt, and moved for more than half a century. From the glamour of post-war Rome to the grand salons of Paris, Valentino built a fashion empire rooted in craftsmanship, color, and an unwavering devotion to beauty. His international breakthrough came in the mid-1960s, and by the 1970s and 1980s, the Valentino name had become firmly established at the summit of high fashion. Today, we celebrate a life well lived, one that has made a huge impact globally. May he rest in peace. Valentino Garavani. And that's all we have for Milestones and on What's Trending today.
Thank you very much, Vembai. We look forward to seeing you.